Good day, everyone. Welcome to our forum today. My name is Visali, and I am honored to be your moderator for today. We are thrilled to have you here with us. Today, we are here to discuss about exploring effective assessment methods beyond written tests. Our goal is to share insights, experience, and best practice, and explore various assessment techniques beyond the confines of written examination, which can enrich the curriculum and enhance instruction and provide a more comprehensive evaluation of student learning outcomes. We have an incredible lineup of speakers who are expert in their field. Let me introduce them to you. Miss Anastasia, English teacher, Miss Ng and Ni, arts teacher, Mr. Tan Wai Chen, science teacher, Miss Tivia, maths teacher, and Miss Tivia Das, biology teacher. A tradition exam evaluates a person's knowledge, skills, or understanding of a subject through written response, typically in the form of essay, short answer questions, multiple choice questions, or problem solving tasks. This type of assessment is commonly used in educational settings, professional certification program, and job requirement processes. Disadvantages of traditional written tests are limited real world context. Traditional tests often lack real world application, focusing more on rote memorization rather than critical thinking and problem solving skills. And also, we having stress and anxiety. The high stakes nature of these tests can cause significant stress and anxiety among students, which may not accurately reflect their true abilities, and also narrow assessment scope. This test typically assesses a limited range of skills, primarily focusing on recall the basic comprehension rather than higher order thinking skills, and also potential for bias. Standardized tests can sometimes be biased against certain group of students, not accounting for diverse learning styles and backgrounds. So here we are to discuss various type of assessment in different subjects and their effectiveness. So let us start our forum today by discussing the art subject. As we know, art is subjective. Miss Anne, would you like to share one of the non-traditional assessment method you use? How have you incorporated this method in your art curriculum? What is its effectiveness? And are there any challenges?
Yeah, thank you, Miss Visali. Yes, as an art teacher, I found that traditional written tests are not always the best way to assess student learning, especially in the creative subject like art and design. Among the alternative assessment method I use, such as exhibition, collaborative art project, art critique, and reflective journal, portfolio is one of the most common and effective tools I use in my art curriculum. Okay, and the effectiveness, like I found that portfolio allows students to document their artistic growth over time, personalize their learning experiences, and reflect on their progress, which help them to deepen their understanding in their work. And they also serve as a cohesive way for students to present their creative journey and outcomes. So this approach actually fosters their self-management skill, encourage them to have reflective thinking, and then help students take ownership of their own learning. And of course, there's some pro and con challenges. And for instance, maintaining consistent student motivation to update their portfolio could be quite difficult. Yeah. And the process is time consuming for both students and also teachers. Additionally, assessing creative work can involve some subjectivity, so leading to the grading inconsistency. And also limited access to the art supplies, resources, and technology can also be a challenging factors. But despite this, portfolio actually remain a valuable tool for assessing student work, artistic learning, and in a holistic way. Yeah.
So, what teaching and learning strategies have you used to ensure all students, including diverse learners, benefit from this assessment method?
I used to have a clear guidance and templates to help students organize their work and understand the expectations. And student also given some flexibility to choose between digital portfolio, we call e-portfolio, or physical portfolio. So it depends on their own preference and resources. And I also regular check-ins. They are another key element that I will always do in the class. Allow me to address individual needs of the student and provide the constant feedback to guide them in throughout the process. And for students who find it challenging to express their thoughts, especially those ELA students, I'll provide visual examples, writing prompts, and sentence starters. I also adapt the assessment criteria to allow students to demonstrate their understanding through various formats, such as audio, videos, or presentations. Additionally, I encourage peer review and critics where they can learn from each other, give and receive constructive feedback. And this really helps students to self-assess their own skills. So this strategy, I ensure that inclusivity and make portfolio assessment meaningful for all students. Yeah.
Miss Anne, art can be accessed in many creativity ways. What other formative assessment method have you incorporated into your visual art curriculum?
One of the key formative assessment I use is the art process journal. Okay, it helps students to record and reflect their creative processes, experiment their technique and materials, and also respond to the feedback while tracking their revisions. So some students even create personal websites to document their process. As I mentioned, they can do digital, they can choose among digital or physical portfolio. So same thing for process journal. And it actually for the website allow the student to get instant feedback from student and teachers. So by reviewing this journal, I can provide really targeted feedback and help them to improve their portfolios and also the exhibition pieces. And this process ensures students remain engaged in their whole journey, and it bridges the gap between the learning and assessment while enhancing their final artwork and the outcome of their learning. Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Anne, for your explanation. Okay, Mr. Ventus, practical methods are often emphasized in science education as they allow students to engage directly with the subject matter. Could you elaborate on the role of practical assessment in evaluating students' learning outcomes, especially how do they address gaps left by traditional written tests, and what strategies do you find most effective in implementing them?
Thank you, Vishali, the moderator. Basically, practical assessment is like a very fun way of learning science because they focus on the skill beyond like not only study, but then they allow the student to have more like hand-on skill, problem solving, and the application of the scientific principle in the real world scenarios. Okay, so for example, in the science lab, we can ask the student to use the microscope to observe the cells so they can actually, this not only tested their knowledge, it also tested their observational skill, critical thinking, as well as their ability to know, like interpret the results. Like when they see this structure, they should know what is this, what is this. So it actually tested the student. So this method is actually quite effective because it foster deeper engagement. The student will have like, you know, when they do the real thing, like if they merely read from the words, they might not understand the thing that well. But if they actually carry out the experiment, like for example, titration, then they will know how it works rather than merely based on the text. And also it also promotes like critical thinking so that the student, once they get the results, they will know, oh, what this result actually like trying to tell us. How can we understand based on this like plotting graph, it shows what, so the student can make conclusion from this perspective. And also it prepare the student for like the real world application, especially in the STEM, by which practicals are very very important. Okay, so in terms of the strategy, if we want to do like practical method for assessment, we have to have a clear rubric so that we the student know how to get the score to maximize their to improve their grade for accuracy, creativity, problem solving, teamwork, etc., etc. And also we have to give the student accurate feedback so that they know how to improve from their way of handling the equipment, etc., etc. And also, uh, we need to have like a conduct titration experiment or DNA sequence to foster the relevant skill. So, no, even though practical methods are very useful in studying science, but then sometimes we face the difficulties like, it is like consume too much time. Like we only have one period, but then actually the experiment will last for very long. And sometimes we also have like limited resources, like microscope is very pricey. So sometimes the student amount is too many. We do not have enough resources. So we are having these challenges. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ventus, and thank you for your explanation. So that's was very informative. Let's move on to our mathematics teacher, Miss Divya. Can you share your thoughts on which assessment method is suitable for this subject and how effective you are at using those assessment methods?
Thank you, Ms. Visali. As a maths teacher, I found observation assessment is suitable to evaluate my student. The main reason because it can capture real-time problem solving, reasoning and collaboration skill. It highlights student thought process and strategy, offering immediate feedback, promoting critical thinking and addressing student diverse ability which is beyond the scope of the traditional written test. For example, the activity in the classroom where students can collect the data on the class survey based on their favorite hobby or favorite game and represent it by using a bar graph or pie chart. From this activity, as teacher, we can observe how students organize the data and interpret the data, and by the way, its accuracy, the plotting graph, and also we can analyze how effectively on student communication when they work in the group to bring out their result.
Uh, Miss Divya, how do you handle situations where students don't perform well during observation?
Thank you, Ms. Divya, for your question. Based on my experience, when students struggle, I will provide constructive feedback by highlighting on what they perform well and suggest the specific area for improvement. If needed, I will offer support for second chance by allowing them to retry the task by giving a proper guidance. On the other hand, if the students still do not perform well after providing all the necessary suggestions, I will deduct the mark on the given task.
Thank you, Miss Divya.
Way, Miss Divya, some activities are too complicated, to use this assessment method. So basically, how you decide which activities are suitable for observational assessment in mathematical topic? Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Anastasia, for the question. On the activity part, I will decide and focus more on the process-oriented skill and collaborations because students can develop a deeper understanding where maths are not just only getting a correct answer for each of the question, but the student should understand how it works and how to apply the step behind each solution they make in the question. Besides, many real-world tasks require teamwork where students must explain their ideas, work with the group, and this will give an opportunity to observe how students will evaluate their reasoning as well as giving the conclusion for each task. For example, activity that is suitable will be a solving puzzle, tasks like measuring the object and analyzing data required for practical situation will be suitable for this assessment.
Okay, thank you, Miss Divya, and thank you, Miss Tiviadas and Anastasia for the question. So next we move to Miss Anastasia. What method do you use for your English subject, and how do you do it, and what are the benefits?
Okay, thank you, Miss Bisali. So I will choose a oral assessment, which is the definition is like a verbal or a spoken exam where examiner asks student question to assess their knowledge and capability of speaking the language and they are learning according to the level. It's exactly like MUET and right now Form 4 and Form 5 student already do the oral assessment too. So for the strategy, usually I will pose a question to student and then I give a situation. It's a random question and a random situation. that usually I didn't give a tip before the exam, because usually I want to test how critical that the critical thinking of the student also, and then I will group or make a pair the student among the student, and then I ask the student will discuss the given topic among themselves. Maybe like there's four student in one group, so they will take turn. They will definitely take turn and how and and give and voice out their opinion, and then as a teacher, I will grade the student according to various assessment criteria lah. Yeah. Okay, so next for the benefit is it will increase and it will give them a good communication skill, which is they will be more brave, and then they will be more confident, and then it's also an authentic way. And I mean, we can hear about their opinion and how they think about one situation or one one case study, sorry, and then it will the student will give the immediate feedback without they search um in Google at Google, and it's so enjoyable. I mean, they are not too formal. I mean, they can they can hear, and then they can change the opinion among themselves. I mean, it's so enjoyable um for my student last time. And then for the challenges, is it's time. Obviously, it's for a time. They have a limited time for them to think. I mean, like in 30 seconds, maybe when the friend or the teammate ask them again, and then they will think like they need to think fast, and then they will need to voice out the opinion fast, and then it's the reliability and the fairness, which is the grading cannot be anonymous in our exam, which can lead bias and subjective grading also. And then for the for the subjective grading, it's so, I mean, it's so subjective. I mean, I cannot be biased, which is the, for example, this student, the opinion is okay for me, but sometimes it's not okay. I mean, like I need to think to think openly, and I need to sometimes I need to ask another teachers also. I mean, like, how about your opinion, is it this answer is okay or not? So I think that's all. That's the benefit and also the challenges. But as the time goes by, I will improve how to do the oral assessment among my student. Yeah, thank you, Miss Visali.
Thank you, Miss Anastasia. Okay, next we move to Miss Divya as a biology teacher. Which method do you prefer implementing in your classroom to assess students?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Visali, for the question. I prefer implementing the project-based assessment (PBA) in my classroom. PBA is a combination of projects and assessments that evaluate students' ability to apply their knowledge and skills learned in the subject to tasks based on real-world situations. There are several important key features of PBA. The first one is that it focuses on application, where students can apply the theoretical knowledge to practical scenarios. Next, the key feature is process and product, where the assessment comprises of both the project outcome and the steps taken to achieve it. Besides that, PBA comprises of an interdisciplinary approach where multiple fields of study are connected. For instance, to complete a project, students may have to relate their knowledge from economy, biology, and chemistry.
That's great, Miss Divya. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of PBA? Could you share an example on how you implement PBA in your classroom?
Yes, Miss Visali, a few advantages of PBA are improved learning outcome, as students are able to gain deeper understanding from practical applications of their knowledge and skills, which would enhance learning experiences. Besides that, this assessment method can increase student motivation and engagement, as PBA often focuses on mastery compared to rote memorization as observed in traditional exams, as they are more focused on getting good grades than focusing on comprehension of content. However, there are several disadvantages of PBA. Firstly, it is time consuming to design meaningful real world projects that align with our curriculum standards. Project completion may take an extended time period, as we have to consider the diverse learners and their abilities. Project-based assessment is also resource intensive as various materials and technological tools are required which may not be widely available, especially in a resource-limited school or schools in rural areas. And the significant teacher support and oversight required may increase teachers' workload. And then, about the example, I often provide students with a few open-ended questions where they can choose the question that they want. For example, I provide students with open-ended questions related to biodiversity based on the topic learned for them to choose from. Once they have chosen the question, they have to conduct research, collect data, analyze data and the findings to come up with the best solution to the real-world problem given. And lastly, they have to present their findings where I would provide them with feedback for improvement. Usually, the PBA will be conducted over a period of 2 to 3 weeks as students often need sufficient time to carry out their research as this is a form of formative assessment. I often conduct PBA in groups as it promotes teamwork and collaboration where they will have to exchange their ideas with one another which will allow students to learn from their more knowledgeable peers which is in line with the zone of proximal development concept and social learning theory. PBA has also allowed my students to improve their problem solving and critical thinking skills as projects require them to think critically. Based on my experience, students often display better engagement and a deeper understanding of the subject content at the end of the project as they were able to relate their knowledge and the scientific skills to real life situations. This is important as biology is an abstract is a subject where it contains many abstract topics that would require students to have imagination skills, critical thinking skills, and everything so that they can visualize the structure and processes. So, therefore, PBA will allow these students to master the abstract concepts.
Okay. Sorry for interrupt you. I would like to ask a question, Miss Divya. Do you think that observational assessment is suitable to assess student for the biology topic or only for mathematics subject? Thank you.
Yes, Anastasia, observational assessment is suitable for both biology and mathematics. This is because observational assessment focuses on evaluating students' practical skills, which are difficult to be captured through written tasks. For example, when students conduct the osmosis with potato experiment, I will be able to evaluate students by observing how they handle the equipment. Do they follow safety protocols? How they carry out the experimental procedures and observe their ability to record and analyze data accurately. Apart from that, observational assessment will allow me to assess them in terms of their communication skills and teamwork. Okay, observational assessment is a great way to assess students' understanding apart from identifying misconceptions during discussions and presentation of biological concepts like photosynthesis, human blood circulatory system, and human breathing mechanism, allowing me to provide immediate feedback to promote a better understanding of these concepts and correct their misconceptions.
So, thank you, Miss Tivia, for the explanation. Okay, as we conclude our forum on exploring effective assessment methods beyond traditional written tests, it's clear that the landscape of education is evolving. We have discussed various innovative approaches that are not only assess students' knowledge, but also foster critical thinking, creativity, and real-world problem-solving skills. For art exhibition, collaborative art project, art critic, reflection journals, and portfolios are effective assessment to document and reflect on student artistic growth and progress over time. Besides personalizing their learning experience, which help deepen their understanding of their work. For science, practical assessment is fundamental as it's focused on skill beyond theoretical understanding as students learn better by doing which enhance retention and understanding of students. Observational assessment is suitable for both mathematics and biology as it allows teachers to assess students' mathematics and scientific skills and behavior and how they apply it to various class activities. For biology, project-based Assessment is a great way to students to develop critical thinking, problem solving, and collaborative skills. Although these assessment methods have their benefit, they also pose challenges such as time constraint, resource intensive, and subjectively, which needs to be overcome to ensure students master the knowledge and skills. By embracing these innovative assessment methods, we can create a more inclusive and effective educational system that truly reflect and enhance students' learning. Thank you all for your insightful contribution and active participation. Let's continue to explore and implement these strategies to benefit our students and educational communication. Thank you.